All right, y'all. I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this story. So this is about Christians and marriage, specifically two Christians who are very successful, who you probably know. Adrienne Bailon Houghton and Israel Houghton. So very successful, very famous, very well known within entertainment and within the Christian space as well, right? So Israel is a worship singer, very successful. Adrienne is a actress, a television host, also very successful. But also something that's interesting about these two is how open they are about their faith. They have an entire series or a show on YouTube just talking about their faith, just talking about their relationship with God and stuff like that. So I found it interesting when I saw this story. Actually, somebody sent this to me on Instagram. I was scrolling on Instagram and somebody said, "Hey, Nick, I don't see anybody talking about this. And I'm concerned, I have a need on my spirit to pray for them. But can you talk about how Israel Houghton and his wife are promoting adultery?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I started doing a little bit of research, like a very small amount, because all the information is right there. It's not, this is all public stuff. This is a television show. And basically what's happening is Adrienne Houghton, she has this new television show, right? She's hosting this new television show where they're testing the limits of three couples' marriages. And they're putting three married couples who have been together from anywhere from like 9 years to like 19 years. And they're putting these couples into a house. They're giving them a hall pass. And they're allowing them to date younger people for an entire month. And the reason why they're doing this is because these married couples are having problems, right? They're having problems. Like all married couples have problems, right? It's not going to be perfect. But they want to see like, hey, do you still want to stick it out and remain faithful to your partner even though you're having problems? Or do you want to date these younger people? And these are younger, attractive people who they're putting in a house and they're living with these, quote unquote, married people for an entire month. And this is a show that Adrienne and Israel are very excited about, it seems. They've been talking about it on social media. They've been promoting it on social media and stuff like that. Let me just read this to you, just so you can kind of have an understanding of what I'm talking about. So it says, Adrienne Bailon is back with a new reality TV series like nothing you've ever seen before. Love for the Ages explores how far married couples will go to keep their unions intact. Bailon puts them to the test by giving them the ultimate hall pass when the couples are asked to remove their rings and date younger partners. The show is a powerful social and psychological experiment sparked by the current trend of age gap couples, something Bailon can personally relate to. It says the series kicks off with three middle-aged couples who are all at a personal and emotional crossroads in their marriage. Sylvia, 47, and Sebastian, 46, have been married for 10 years and are struggling to see eye to eye on many things. Maria, 39, and Michael, 41, who met as teenagers, have been married for 19 years. Their troubles began when one of them became much more introverted than the other, and the need for major compromises set in, causing tension. Maraxi, 39, and Richard, 43, have been married for 9 years, and the skeletons in their closet are quickly revealed. Now, here's the part that I want you to pay attention to right here. This is the main part. It says, the couples are granted the wish of a lifetime to turn back the hands of time and swap their current spouses for much younger partners for a month. It'll all come down to whether the couples opt to remain together for better or for worse, or dare to embark on a new life alone with a sexy new partner. I don't know what the heck is going on with this ad right here. Did y'all see that ad? That was crazy. Y'all need to chill. This is not a new thing though. It's definitely not a new thing. Have y'all remember those shows? This is way back in the day. Wife Swap. Wife Swap, that was a really weird show. They would take married people and then they would swap wives and then they would live with each other for like a week or like 2 weeks. I remember I used to watch that show. This was way back in the day. I probably shouldn't even been watching the show. I was so young. But that really made me think differently of what it meant to be married because of shows like that were twisting and perverting the idea of marriage. So this is not a new concept, but it's interesting to see that we have a Christian couple who are at the forefront of promoting this type of content. That's very interesting. Now, just to continue reading, it says, and this is this is a quote from Adrienne. It says, they are realizing if this is something that they really want. Adrienne explains, they're at a crossroads in their marriage. Do they want to move forward, or would they like to see what it would be like to now have some fun with someone younger? You know, it's interesting because, like I said, no marriage is going to be perfect. No relationship is going to be perfect, but you know, definitely no marriage is going to be perfect. There's always going to be ups and downs. There's always going to be struggles. And I said this yesterday. I said, you know, no matter how much you love somebody, no matter how much you care about somebody, you're probably always going to get sick of them at some point. They're always going to do something that's going to annoy you. There's always going to be a point in the relationship where, you know, you might question, man, did I make the right decision? Or, you know, is this the person for me? And that's because we're human. We're fickle. Like by nature, we're unfaithful. And that's why it's so important, especially in a society that is so overly sexualized, that wants you to be with multiple people, that praises men for having side pieces and stuff like that. That's why it's so important living in this society to make sure that your marriage is rooted in Christ, that Jesus Christ is at the center of your marriage, and that Jesus is the number one priority in your marriage. It's not just about, and hear me when I say this, it's not just about pleasing your spouse. That's a priority. But the number one priority in your marriage should be to be pleasing to God and to glorify God. If both of you are striving to do that, then naturally you'll experience all the fruit that God has for you in that union of marriage. But now we have a growing trend. And this kind of shows where we're at as a society and how we view marriage. Because we already see the entire construct of marriage being deconstructed. Look at like the Respect for Marriage Act. Now we're being forced to recognize marriage, quote unquote, between, you know, same-sex couples. We're being forced to recognize that. Even like polyamorous couples. There was a case in New York where there was 3 men living together, and they are recognizing that as like a marriage. So now we're being forced to recognize all these marriages, quote unquote, that are completely unbiblical and completely just opposite to what God intended marriage to be. But that's what people want. That's what society wants. Society wants to keep breaking these things down because the world hates God. God designed it perfectly for us to be between a man and a woman, to have a perfect union, a perfect covenant, but nothing is sacred anymore. The Bible says during the end times, nothing will be sacred. Nothing will be sacred anymore. And marriage is one of those things that this world is chipping away at quickly to remove all the sacredness from it. So when I look at a show like this, you know, it hurts my heart because this could be an opportunity, especially as Christians, especially as, Christians who are singing the gospel and praising, and worshiping Jesus like Israel and his wife do, for them to be a part of a show like this, it could have been a very good opportunity to introduce these couples to Jesus and to introduce these couples to the biblical understanding of how to operate a successful marriage. And it could have been an opportunity to show the world that as well. And, there's a need, there's a hunger, there's a desire for Christian content right now. Just look at The Chosen. The Chosen started out as this small, like, independent type of project. And now it's literally, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest Christian television show, like, in the world right now. This article says, after overwhelming response, The Chosen season 3 finale extended in theaters nationwide. We have this hunger, this appetite as a society to consume Christian content. And regardless of what you think about The Chosen, and I've been critical of The Chosen in the past before, but it does show that there is a true market, that there is a desire, a hunger for Christian content. And I think with a show like this, hosted by Adrienne Houghton, this could have been an opportunity to turn that show into an example of how to have a godly marriage and understand that it's not always going to be perfect, but if you lean on God, then you can get through it. So, just to continue reading a little bit, it says, Adrienne saw how the couple struggled to figure out if their marriages were worth fighting for, or if it was truly time to walk away. Some of them have been together for a long time and were now empty nesters, which tested the strength of their love as a pair. Although Adrienne is a new mommy of a 4-month-old baby boy, these dynamics made her consider her own journey through motherhood. I have to remember that my relationship with my husband is so important because once my son is grown and out of the house, it's going to be just the two of us. And I still want that to be fulfilling. Loving experience, she says. And how do you keep that alive? How do you make that work? So seeing these couples that have been together for such a long time really made me learn a lot about how to keep that fresh. I don't think you need to learn how to keep your marriage fresh through seeing other people participating in adultery. I don't think you need to keep your marriage fresh by introducing new people into your marriage. That's just demonic, in my opinion, because that's opposite of God. I think about it like this. Would Jesus get behind a show like this? And I know it's so cliche. Like, would Jesus do that? But no, for real. Like, would Jesus be involved in a show like this? Would he be involved in a show that is encouraging married people to cheat on their spouse? Would he be involved in that? Because what this is at its core, it's lust, it's perverted, and it's just over-sexualizing an already over-sexualized society. And, she said something that was very important to her was that, hey, I have a family, I have children, or one child, I believe. But my son's going to grow up, and my son's not always going to be in the house. And at some point he's going to move out, and it's just going to be me and Israel. So how do we keep that dynamic of love, and how do we keep it interesting, and how do we keep it fresh? Well, number one, it's not just going to be you and Israel. It's going to be you, Israel, and God. And the way you keep it fresh is you lean on God. And I'm not anyone to talk. Like, I don't have all this expansive experience when it comes to marriage, but I'm just saying, Put God at the center of your marriage. Put God at the center of your relationship. He will keep it fresh for you. He will keep the love there if you continue to lean on him. But if we lean on our own understanding, if we lean on our own flesh, then we start to think, oh, you know what? We need to bring more people in the mix. We need to date new people. We need to see if this is something that we, want to still even be involved in. We need to see if the spark is still there. But why? That's like dumping fuel on a flame. If you're involved in a marriage, and you're having problems, the worst thing that you could do is encourage the other side, your wife or your husband, to explore other relationships with other people. You're just adding fuel to the flame. That temptation is not going to end up good. Either that temptation is going to pull that marriage apart in the short term, or the long-term effects of your partner going out and stepping out on your marriage is always going to haunt you in your memory, in your mind. And it's always going to contaminate the union that you have. It's never a good thing. It's never a good thing. I don't know what it's, I can't sit here and pretend to know that I know anything about the pressure that is being a Christian in Hollywood. I don't know anything about that. I'm sure the pressure is very great, because you're proposed with this idea of, hey, come do this show and we'll pay you 6 figures, right? We'll pay you a bunch of money. But the problem is, well, it might not completely align with your beliefs as a Christian, but hey, it's still a bunch of money. And like I said, I can't begin to imagine the pressure, but there has to be a line that you don't cross. And I'm sure some people are able to separate, hey, this is just work. This is just a job. Like in the case of Adrienne taking this job to host this show, maybe in her head, she thinks like, yo, this is just work. This is just a job. This is just a job. And she's able to make that separation and not have any guilty feelings on her conscience. Maybe she's able to do that. But I think the problem is when you have a platform and when you have so many people that are looking at you, and when you have so many, Christians that are looking at your marriage and looking at your career and looking at your life, I think we have to be mindful of the decisions that we make and the opportunities that we choose to accept. So this is from 1 Corinthians 10. This is verse 31. I'm just going to read verse 31 and 33. It says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Don't give offense to Jews or Gentiles or the church of God. I too try to please everyone in everything I do. I don't just do what is best for me. I do what is best for others, so that many may be saved. Could you imagine, hypothetically, could you imagine if Jesus just did what was best for him? Hypothetically, could you imagine if Jesus was just concerned about relationships and was just concerned about everybody liking him and was just concerned about being approved by everybody and was just concerned about having this stamp of approval from the world? Could you imagine that? If Jesus was just concerned about those aspects of being here on this earth, I don't think he ever would have accomplished the mission that the Father sent him on. Because if he was just buddy with everybody, if he was just rubbing shoulders with everybody, and if he was just cool with everybody, then they would have never called him out and called him a blasphemer. They would have never called him out and put him on that cross and crucified him. But just like the verse says, I don't just do what is best for me. I do what is best for others so that many may be saved. What was best in the situation of Jesus was to follow the will of the Father who sent him. And that will meant that he had to die on a cross. And that was best for others, many others, for all of us, because now we have an opportunity to be saved. Now we have an opportunity through Christ's blood to enter into the kingdom of heaven. But that took sacrifice. That took recognizing that I'm not going to be able to please everybody, but ultimately this is what is best, and this is what needs to be done in order to fulfill the will of our Father. And when I look at shows like this show that Adrienne and Israel are a part of, I think to myself, if they were to decline this show, and I'm sure, like I said, I don't know if there's some contractual, thing that forces them to do this or what, I don't know. But it seems like they're pretty excited to do it. But if they were to decline this show and say, hey, it doesn't work for me because it goes against my beliefs, well, yeah, maybe they would have less opportunities in Hollywood. Maybe them declining a show like this and saying this goes against my beliefs would result in them having less opportunities in Hollywood. But imagine if they declined this show and then did their own thing. I'm sure they have enough resources, enough capital, enough experience to do their own thing and actually do something that is truly serving God and not just serving this world. Just like The Chosen. We see the appetite for Christian content is at an all-time high. How come we don't have more people who are saying that they're Christian, who have a platform, who have the resources? How come we don't have more people going into this space and creating Christian content to be consumed in order to glorify God, as opposed to just bowing down to the bag and creating this over-sexualized content that appeals solely to the world and solely to our flesh? So I don't know if any of that makes sense. I'd love to know what y'all think about this story. I'd love to know what y'all think. Get in my comments, like this video. And ultimately, let's just pray for Adrienne and Israel. Father, I pray that you just open their eyes, and I pray that you just allow them to see the desire for Christian content. And I pray that you put it on their heart to create Christian shows that have an impact and bring people closer to your kingdom, Lord. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's kind of disheartening. But that also goes back to the conversation that I was talking about the other day, is like, there's so much variation of Christianity nowadays. Like, so many people have taken Christianity and they've molded it to fit whatever narrative best suits their lifestyle. And I think the world loves that. The world loves that because that keeps you further from the truth that is actually in the Bible. When you're able to just manipulate scriptures to fit your lifestyle, that's perfect for the world, because then you're not actually tapping into the truth that is in the Bible. You're just making it fit whatever lifestyle is appealing to you. And I think we're seeing that more and more throughout society. So once again, let me know what you think. Comment, like this video, subscribe. I'm out.